as we continue to have these conversations about name, image, and likeness, revenue sharing, and just how much money is being thrown to players, I want to take a look at the highest paid coaches in our sport and whether or not anybody's going to see return on investment. And should some of these guys be making more money than guys that have won a national championship? Like, I don't know, Lane Kiffin, Dan Lanning. Should they be making anywhere near what Ryan Day does? Let's talk about it. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, answer the question in the comments below. Do you think there should be a cap on how much coaches should make? I like thinking about this idea because I think it brings back into perspective some of the conversations people want to have around recruiting and name, image, and likeness. If you are paying attention, the price for a great and talented college football player continues to go up. As a matter of fact, it is looking more and more like one of the more sound investments that you can make. So if you got a kiddo that looks like they're going to be a blue chip player, 4-star or better, the price of brick just keeps going up, right? And in this particular equation, your kiddo is the brick that everybody wants. All right. So what we have is the floor for many recruiting budgets being about $15 million in the Power Four, right? That roster budget, being about $15 million. That's what you're paying just to have the team on the field in a Power Four conference. Maxing out around $50 million, maybe a little bit less. Those numbers expect to continue to go up. At one point, I expect that the revenue that you can distribute will match the total amount that you will spend on your roster. Okay. Then I take a look at what people want in a salary cap, which is to say, put a cap on how much each one of these players can make and have slotted values allotted to their positions, not unlike what you see in the NFL. The only problem I have with that, well, I should say it's not the only problem I have with that. I have many problems with that. But the one I want to talk about today is that nobody wants to cap how much a head coach makes. When I'm looking at the annual salary of these coaches, and some of them will fill out most of your budget, right? And if I start talking about how much money each one of these coaches can make, people sometimes get squarely uncomfortable about it. I'm going, no. The market demands that this person gets paid this much based on what they have done in the past and, frankly, who's buying, right? Some people have a much higher tolerance for risk, and the number that you have in mind might actually be a bargain to them. So as I was looking at the top 10 highest paid coaches in college football for 2026 on an annual salary basis, it wasn't so much how much they were making, it's what accolades I could assign to them that perhaps would make this stomach a little bit better for many of us. So as I'm going through the list, going from, least amount in air quotes to the best, I want you to put together just what all these coaches have in common, right? Among this top 10, Dan Lanning sits at number 10. He's going to make $10.6 million to be the head coach at Oregon this year. Mike Elko, head coach at Texas A&M, and Steve Sarkisian, the head coach at Texas, make the same amount, $11,005,000. I love this because I'm sure somewhere there is a clause that just says, I make as much as that guy unless that guy wins a national championship, right? Texas is the flagship university in the state of Texas, but don't tell that to A&M, who many of you will know is not shy about spending money on the things that makes it happy, right? So much so that we don't even talk about Texas A&M's budget. Remember we used to talk about how much they spent on a recruiting class 2021, and all Jimbo Fisher could done do was come out and tell us how to slice bread. Okay, turns out it's not all that much, dog. And any university that will put together $80 million to tell you to take your ass home, they got it. don't go playing with them, right? I haven't got to some other places here that also got some money. They just aren't paying in the top 10, like, say, SMU. Lincoln Riley's on this list at $11.5 million. Man has not won a Big Ten championship. Man has not made the college football playoff. He has produced a Heisman winner and a Biletnikoff Award winner, but again, at SC, that ain't what you're doing. At SC, you're looking to play for championships. Then you got Kalen DeBoer, who just got his raise to $12.5 million, which puts him in line with Ryan Day. It's just interesting. Kalen DeBoer gets this raise, I think, on the strength of Michigan and others pursuing him pretty hard in December. And at that point, Greg Burns just got to eat, I think, a raise for the guy that just made the college football playoff, won a game in it, and looks like they're building a program that can get back to winning a national championship. But we'll see, right? Turning over the quarterback again. But all of us expect Keelan Russell, if it's him, to be able to sling it, and they'll be pretty damn good. And then at the top of this list that I have in front of me, Lane Kiffin's going to make $13 million in year one as a head coach at LSU. Lane Kiffin, who got Ole Miss to the college football playoff without needing to play in a conference championship game and essentially held the program hostage for a couple weeks before finally deciding not only go to LSU, but then threatening the assistants he wanted to take with him to either leave the place or join him and they wouldn't have a job. Wild times over there. So I'm going to go over this list one more time and you tell me, once again, if you see anything that all these guys have in common. Dan Lanning, Mike Elko, Steve Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley, Kalen DeBoer, and Lane Kiffin. Yes, none of these guys have won a national championship. Other men on the list of this top 10, right? Dabo Swinney. I mentioned Ryan Day earlier. Curt Cignetti's at the top. He's making $13.2 million. Kirby Smart's right beneath him, and he's making $13.1 million. Kirby Smart, who's won 2 national championships. Curt Cignetti, who's won 1. I kind of think that on the merits, Kirby Smart should be the highest paid coach in college football today, but the merits ain't really what we're talking about, is it? You know, we're talking about the value that you supply to your program, because another guy that's just not on this list, but just barely missed it, is Deion Sanders at Colorado. They had one good season, 9 wins, a Heisman Trophy winner, and off the strength of that, they got a first-round draft pick in Travis Hunter, number 2 overall. But this year, not a single Colorado player was drafted. They lost their best players to the transfer portal in DJ McKinney to Notre Dame, cornerback, and Jordan Seaton, offensive tackle, to LSU. And you're hoping that turning over the defense coordinator, the offensive coordinator, is going to lead you back to being on the good foot. If Deion Sanders was on this list, this was what this segment would be about. But I wanted to point out that there are other men who have not done what we all thought they could do that are still bringing in this brick, bringing in this money. So whenever we have these discussions about how much a player is getting paid, I want to remind you to go look at your coach's annual salary, and then you tell me how unfair this really is.